going to a different economy, and we're going to be learning more about that as we go. But clearly, we're learning that things can be done from remote locations. We're learning that technology can replace people even more than we thought.
We're not going back to the same economy. We're recovering, but to a different economy, and it'll be one that is more leveraged to technology. And I worry that that is going to make it even more difficult than it was for many workers.
In Silicon Valley, and my friends who work in technology know that what we did to the manufacturing workers, we are now going to do to the retail workers, the call center workers, the fast food workers, the truck drivers, and then even bookkeepers, accountants, insurance agents, lawyers, and on through the economy. So what happened to the manufacturing workers is a very clear sign.
This effort. And China has big plans for this. They intend to seed their digital yuan into the global environment by giving it away to visitors at next winter's Olympics. When they arrive at the airport, they're going to get yuan digital wallets. They're going to receive digital yuan. They're going to use it throughout their visits to Beijing, and then they're going to take it back to their home countries. They see this as a huge advantage. Why? Because who controls the underlying protocols, who controls the underlying standards of the future of money will control the future of money.
Now he says he first called 4 of his major clients. One actually was dead. He called 3 of them. And he said, he told them on the phone that he was going to shut down the Ponzi scheme. Quote, they were readily aware of the circumstances that created this horrible situation and knew the role they all played in those events. Mr. Madoff was talking about Jeffrey Pickauer, who died after the scandal was disclosed. He drowned in his pool in Palm Beach. Carl Shapiro, a 100-year-old man who still lives in Palm Beach, who returned roughly $650 million to the trustee. The Pickauer estate returned $7.2 billion to the trustee. And Stanley Chase, he's dead now. But Stanley Chase's estate is fighting in court against the $1 billion complaint filed by Irving Picard, the trustee trying to recover fees. The big news here is that he's saying that he called Chase, Pickauer, and Shapiro before he told anyone else and tried to get them to return money. The other news is when I asked him about that, the illegal stuff he says they were doing, he told me, quote, they knew they were doing illegal stuff for years. It was backdating. They were ordering him to backdate the stocks he was allegedly trading for him. Of course, it was all fictional, and that they were telling him to backdate it to their benefit. Irving Picard alluded to that in complaints that had been filed in court, but this is the first time publicly that Bernie Madoff has accused those men of doing that. Finally, there's the case against J.P. Morgan Chase. Picard is suing Chase for recovery of billions of dollars. Mr. Madoff told me in regards to J.P. Morgan Chase, where he had his account, quote, there's no question that J.P. Morgan Chase is guilty. They would have to be idiots to not realize what was
the largest Ponzi scheme in history to them, and somehow they couldn't be bothered to conduct a thorough and proper investigation because they were too busy on matters of higher priority. If a $50 billion Ponzi scheme doesn't make the SEC's priority list, then I want to know who sets their priorities.
Critical instances in which the SEC staff failed to seek information, you've just enumerated these in your testimony. Getting information from third parties to verify Mr. Madoff's claims about his trades. Steps as simple as sending a letter that was already drafted, in fact, in one case. A drafted letter just needed to be sent that might have brought an end to this thing years ago. Or making a single phone call to the Depository Trust Corporation or the National Association of Securities Dealers, NASD, would have just a single phone call. Is that what you're saying? That's a single letter being sent, a single phone call, having been made, in your view, could have brought this to a screeching halt and exposed it for what it was. Is that
yes,
fair?
That's right. The concern was that they would get tremendous amounts of information that would take a long time to peruse. But in fact, of course, since Madoff wasn't engaged in trading, they would have received very little information, and immediately they would have seen that on certain days that Madoff was claiming in customer statements he had $2 billion in options, for example, there are no records of those.
He made no trades.
That's right. I mean, he had a broker-dealer operation, and he had firm trades, but it was in very different amounts. There was certainly, we actually, during the course of our investigation, we went to DTC, and we got specific dates, for example, the date that Madoff testified before the SEC, and we compared the documents, the customer statements, with the documents from the DTC, and immediately we saw that there was, there was no question that Madoff wasn't making anywhere near the volume that he said he was. And with respect to the NASD as well, I mean, there are entities that clear trades. Those are independent entities. Madoff can't give them documents. Those documents are independent. And had they done that, they would have uncovered the scheme.
No. So a single phone call, a single letter would have exposed this for what it was.
That's right.
Your testimony.
The bank knew something was wrong well before the Ponzi scheme collapsed. U.S. Attorney Preet Baraha spelled out some of that history at a press conference this afternoon.
Today's charges have been filed because, in this regard, J.P. Morgan, as an institution, failed and failed miserably. In part because of that failure, for decades, essentially through a single set of accounts at J.P. Morgan, as far back as 1998, a bank fund manager concluded that Madoff's returns were, quote, possibly too good to be true, close quote, and that there were too many red flags.
Patricia Hurtado has been covering this for Bloomberg News and was at the prosecutor's press conference today. She joins me now. Well, Patricia, thanks for joining us. Let's fill in the picture a little bit. What exactly is J.P. Morgan admitting that it did?
Well, they're basically accused of being the private banker for Bernard Madoff and enabling his Ponzi scheme to continue, merely for the mere fact that even though they were concerned and they got their own personal investments out of Madoff and they thought they were suspicious something was wrong, they allowed other people to continue to be victimized.
So we heard this phrase just now, too good to be true. That's how it looked, at least at the time. But the problem is nobody said anything?
Yeah, the government basically alleges that for years, dating back to 1986, Madoff had an account at JP Morgan Chase and its predecessor entities and allowed hundreds of billions of dollars to go through and allowed very unusual, suspicious transactions to go through, and yet the bank never raised any red flags and never raised any concerns. But the bank was savvy enough to get its own money out when it became concerned, just before the fraud was uncovered in December 2008.
Now, no individuals are cited, I see. The company said, am I right? The company still says it doesn't believe employees knowingly assisted Madoff's scheme?
Yes, basically, the U.S. Attorney's Office conceded today that they're not charging an individual, that this is an institutional failure. Many, many people, this is a huge bank, different parts of the bank didn't communicate well with each other and didn't share their concerns. So it's sort of isolated or fragmented. Their concerns were fragmented. So not one individual was aware of the Ponzi scheme and allowed it to continue.
So
your mission, you said, was to protect investors and detect fraud quickly. How'd that work out? What went? Could you explain yourselves? You have single-handedly diffused the American public of any sense of confidence in our financial markets if you are the watchdogs. You have totally and thoroughly failed in your mission. Don't you get it?
Most since being that dirty word that we call politician several years back. What is the greatest rabbit hole that you've gone down since you've been in government?
The greatest rabbit hole.
Like, what's something that you've learned since being in government that you kind of wish, I suppose, when you were...
Didn't know that. Oh, well, one, that it's all fake. You know, that was really a very sad moment for me when I served on the House International Relations Committee, and the particular subcommittee, I think it was Western Hemisphere Subcommittee, was having a hearing, and the chairman of the subcommittee was there. I was on the subcommittee, so I was there. And then the committee or the subcommittee were interviewing, had a panel of witnesses that were being questioned by the subcommittee members. And it looked like it was a normal event. Then, all of a sudden, the chairman of the subcommittee, we sit down, we go through the hearing. The chairman of the subcommittee is fussing at the witness, and the witness is antagonistic toward the chairman of the subcommittee. So there's some friction, there's electricity, there's something happening in the air. After the hearing is over, the chairman backslaps the witness and they walk out together. It was just theater. Didn't mean anything. So that was like the saddest thing for me to realize that it was all just theater. Didn't really mean anything. And that's probably the harshest lesson, but that's the realest lesson.
Welcome to the Crypto Teacher. And guys, I come back with that video just to make you think. And guys, that video was self-explanatory. I've done a video on Bernie Madoff back in 2020, those who know. I saw some comments on Twitter, so I wanted to do it again. Guys, do not forget the SEC Ripple case as a movie. We know Elon Musk and SEC is a movie. It's nothing but an actual distraction. But we see many of people come before Congress. They do the little fussing back and forth, and nothing happens. If you have my New World Order book, you know all about the banks, because we know the banks are the biggest drug dealing, money laundering, gun running son of a guns. And remember, the Crypto Teacher told you. And the New World Order is tearing apart every segment of the financial industry of the legacy market, so then therefore they can put it on blockchain and be tokenized. Nothing can be trusted. And they're bringing out everything in the forefront to you. Oh, the government can't be trusted. The reason why, because they have an even better solution. That is blockchain. Remember, the New World Order creates the problem. They wait for the reaction and run in with the solution. And blockchain gives them the all-seeing eye. Remember, they must tear down this legacy market and the U.S. dollar so America to Babylon can fall. So then therefore, China, the dragon, that digital yuan can rise backed by the digital SDR. Because we know, when it comes to the New World Order, it's all planned out. You have a wonderful day. Powerful person in the world is the storyteller. The storyteller sets the vision, values, and agenda of an entire generation to come. Steve Jobs. And guys, I truly believe in this. When you look at the New World Order, they're the storytellers. And that's the reason why I wrote my New World Order book. But guys, now it's time to change the current generation. And I wrote 3 kids' books. I love the Trinity because I understand the power that's in it. So I have 3 books. We have an opportunity to change the generation, to educate, not just me, but I want to show you that I take action on a daily basis. And I want you to take action on a daily basis. Whether it's your job, whether it's in your community, we have an opportunity right now to educate the masses. I posted this on my Twitter account. Please share, but this is a short clip of the 3 books. There's going to be a clothing line and action figures. Please get these books for your kids, nephews, cousins, friends, so therefore we can start the re-education now. Because as we see, the 4th Industrial Revolution foundation is definitely here. Robots, algorithms, drones, taking humanity out the picture. We have to re-educate. But let's get into the video.
Part 1. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save the village. Part 2. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save New York from COVID-33. Part 3. King Joshua and Grandma Tam goes to China.
It's mandatory to get part 1, part 2, and part 3 of this series. It's time to re-educate Generation Z.